Hey everyone, Marty from RSN Trackside here at Bristol Motor Speedway in Bristol, Tennessee. And on the show we got right now one of the voices for the Motor Racing Network from Goldsboro, North Carolina, Alex Hayden.
That's impressive.
Thank you.
That's impressive. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
No problem. So let's talk about the season so far. Obviously, it's been a little bit crazy on and off, but it's been an impressive 2020 so far.
It really has. It's been interesting, to say the least. Starting off with the way the Daytona 500 went. It was a great race. Ryan Newman, his big crash at the checkered flag. Denny Hamlin winning the race by inches. Just kind of set this whole season into motion. Then we see Joey Logano jump out, win a couple of races early on, and then the shutdown. And we're not sure if we're going to race again, quite frankly. Nobody really knows what the rest of the year was going to hold. And then we started hearing some grumblings in early May that potentially we're going to get back to racing and do it without race fans. And at that time, nobody really knew what to think. Nobody really knew what to expect and how to get this going. But yeah, it's been interesting, and especially since May 17th when we went back at it in Darlington. It's been fun. It's been business as usual when the race cars are on the track. But anytime before or after race cars on the track, it's been anything but business as usual.
I want to ask you as well about the COVID-19 pandemic. How has it affected the broadcasting of the races? I've seen on social media when you and Moody did the first race at Darlington, you guys were in different booths. I know Dylan Welch, Steve Pulse, they were wearing a mask in the turn, and you've had to put the pit reporters down.
Yeah, the very first week in Darlington, because it was so new and because there were so many different things, we had big plexiglass. It was the same booth we were in. They just divided it all up into threes. So I had a space, Moody had a space, and then our director and producer, Ryan Horn, had his own space. It quickly turned into something that just couldn't work for what we had to do in broadcasting. Talked with NASCAR, talked to all the powers that be and everybody involved in it, and they agreed that some things had to be altered, some things had to be changed. So a lot of things different. Yeah, we're at the racetrack, by the way.
Yeah.
So there's noises. My phone's going nuts, so I apologize about that. But it's been interesting. But once again the race cars are on the track, it's business as usual. You don't really think about fans not being in the grandstands. You don't really think about getting out of the track and sitting in traffic when the cars are racing. But yeah, like I said, before and after, it's unusual.
Because I know you guys get a lot of fan support on MRN. How weird is it not having them in the stands for most of the races?
Yeah, it stinks. There's no other way to put it. It's unusual because, as a lot of people know, you guys included, when we go to commercial break and there's people listening to us on their scanners, we'll talk to them. We'll talk to fans down in the stands who are listening to us and have hand signals to fans out there. And it's different now. And I think the things that really stand out to me are the victory lanes. Once the race is over, the checkered flag flies, the cars finish their cool down lap, they come to pit road and turn the engines off, it's silent. I mean, you can hear a bird chirp, and that's not an exaggeration. And then the winner, congratulations to whomever that might be, but they're just standing down there by themselves. Then there's a couple of photographers that do the television interview, the radio interview, and that's it. I mean, and then you just jump in your car and you drive out of there. It's different. It really is. And for our pit reporters to have the boom microphones and the big sticks that are involved for the social distancing, they have to wear the masks on pit road. It's a challenge for sure.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And for what he's talking about, talking to the fans, they have a huge channel that when you listen to the scanners, and I've heard it as well in the 50 Years of NASCAR podcast. That's probably the best thing ever when you guys crack those one-liners at each other.
Yeah, we have fun with each other, and we do, and because we're a family. We're on the road together, 4 days out of the week, and Winston Kelley, the executive director of NASCAR Hall of Fame, walks in.
And what are we doing?
We're doing an interview.
We are?
Yeah. Marty from RSN, nice to meet you.
Well, just excuse the hell out of me for getting in the way of Sir Alex.
This is what I'm telling you about.
Here's Jeff Streigle.
Hey!
So you guys are getting a little bit of everything right now. They're not supposed to be here. Well, none of us are really supposed to be here for 2 more hours. But anytime there's a night race, doesn't matter if it's pandemic time or regular season, whatever. Todd Costello walking in, doesn't matter. We're bored in the middle of the day. There's nothing to do sitting around the hotel, so you just come on and go to the racetrack.
Are you live?
Yes.
Okay, let's go ahead and bring that up.
Okay, as you walked in without one.
No.
I want to ask you as well, by the way, about racing. Last week, crazy story. Colt Custer gained his first ever Cup Series win.
I had him in my fantasy team.
We're gonna let everybody buy.
Yeah.
I had the general in my
That's Jake
fantasy
from
team,
State
Alex,
Farm.
just for the record.
He doesn't have cash.
Did you really?
Yes, I did.
He was my garage stall guy, and I didn't put him in. So yeah, I'm hating myself.
But yeah, Colt Custer winning his first ever Cup race. What'd you think about that?
He didn't just win the race; he went and got it.
He earned it.
And that's what I like about it. He didn't back his way into one. He didn't get a pitch strategy. Not that there's anything wrong with that. A win's a win's a win. But to see young Colt Custer really get up on the steering wheel with the best of the business right there, and Kevin Harvick and Martin Truex Jr., 2 champions.
Yeah.
Though Ryan Blaney in there, he's already won at Talladega this year, he went and took that race. And I thought it was just impressive. He did it the hard way around the outside. So my hat's off. It was great to see.
I know you weren't at the race because PRM was broadcasting it, so you were probably watching behind your TV. Kelvin and I watching the race. We were losing our minds those final 2 laps with how crazy that finish was. Kelvin, do you want to ask Alex any questions before we head off the All-Star
What do you got,
race?
Calvin? Go.
Well, Matt DiBenedetto
Yeah.
came in as an underdog here at Bristol last year, was really on an underdog story. He's now performed pretty well, significant in the 21 car. 3rd place last week. Pushed Colt Custer to that win, as Colt Custer and Matt have said. How is it that he can drive really mad and perform really well, get that from 18th, but now he had the inconsistent streak? Does he get a win this year, or does it continue and he's going to run consistently well and make the playoffs on the back end?
I think he's consistent enough to make the playoffs on his own. I think he's good enough, and the Wood Brothers team is good enough with their alliance with Team Penske. I think they're good enough to win. I would love to see it. We know Matt's been close many times. I think Matt will actually race his way in. He'll win one of these 2 stages. I think one of the first 2 stages of the Open here at Bristol. That'll kind of show everybody he is again. Don't forget about me. I'm here. I'm running back at the front of the field. But I think DiBenedetto's a playoff driver. Not sure if he'll win before the playoffs, but I think he's good enough to win a race, but I do think he is a playoff driver.
Yeah, last year that Bristol night race, he made a statement pretty much showing that he can drive.
Yeah, and again, he had to pass Ryan Newman, which is hard for everybody to do.
Yes.
So it was a lesson learned, and I don't think something that Matt DiBenedetto will forget. He'll know how to handle that situation.
And that's kind of why I say when he races med, he seems to put that little bit extra into it, because it was at Bristol last year where I believe he found out right before that race he wasn't going to be back in that Levine family racing car because they were bringing up Christopher Bell to drive that car, and he was out of a ride. Paul Menard steps in, gets him to ride after that Bristol race. So maybe he needs to, maybe his crew chief's onto something. Maybe I need to poke him a little bit before the race.
People get motivated in their own certain ways, don't they? I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't take much for Matty D to get fired up, and I think the expectation is there now. He just needs to jump that hurdle.
And it's something you really wouldn't expect from Matt, because he's one of the most well-known guys. You could walk up to him and talk to him right off the bat.
Yeah.
And he's not going to say no to you if you're a fan. Stop, take a photo, give you an autograph.
Yeah.
He's one of those, happy to be here. I'll do anything for you guys as long as you don't take advantage of the situation.
He's one of the personable ones for sure.
Yeah, definitely. All right, you good?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I want to talk the All-Star race as well as we're recording. It's All-Star night, probably the second biggest All-Star of the year. In my opinion, I don't think anything will ever top 92, the one hot night. But everyone's been talking about this juice cone, and you, me, Kelvin, and Dave Moody were talking about this before we did the interview. What do you think of it? Do you think it's going to be something we see in the future?
Yeah, I think so. I think so because the industry wants it, and I think once it's proven on the track tonight that it's going to be a good thing. Now, that being said, it's still up to the drivers to be able to execute and to be able to not get penalized, because you can get penalized with this tonight. There's an orange arrow painted on the track. Behind that, towards turn 1, there's an actual box, an orange box. So you can run over the arrow with your tires, but if you run over the box, you will be penalized. So a decision has to be made far in advance for these drivers. They can do it. For crying out loud, kids do it on local go-kart tracks. So if kids can do it, I think the best NASCAR drivers and stock car drivers in the world can do it.
What do you think about as well the twist of like the fan experience? And by that I'm talking about the afterglow on these cars, as well as the livery changes with the numbers moved in front of the rear tires. What do you think of it?
I'm open-minded. You know,
Yeah.
change is good. Change is everything, and it works. Obviously, as a night race, the underlight, it doesn't appeal to
Yeah.
me. I'm 49 years old, so that's not really my thing. But I have talked to some buddies of mine that are my age that do have kids, and those kids think it's the coolest thing ever. And they're going to watch because there's now neon lights going to be underneath these race cars. So whatever it takes to get everybody interested. And to have the younger generation interested in just because there's lights under the cars, I don't think that's a bad thing. And with the numbers moving around, it doesn't necessarily matter to me. We've seen race cars at short tracks my whole career that would run number painted all the way at the very back on the quarter panel. Sometimes it's painted at the front side of the door panel as opposed to the back side of the door panel. It doesn't matter to me as far as the number goes. We have to understand that this is still a rolling billboard, and we still need corporate dollars to make these race cars get to the track, number one, and make them go around the track, number two. And if you can give them a bigger place to put their business logo, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and I think as well, because I just actually thought of this, the All-Star race is usually one of those more unique races with
Yeah.
$1 million on the line, not for points. And we've seen twisted the All-Star races these past few years, like 2018, they put the plates on. 2017, Goodyear brought that second tire in, the option tire, I think they called it. And now you got the livery changes, the afterglow, and more importantly, you got a short track.
Yeah, you do. And they do have the PJ1 down here at
Yes.
the track, and that really comes into play. And a lot of people are a little misled on that. They know it takes heat for that to come in, and that's not ambient heat. That's not the air temperature.
Yeah.
Even though it's going to be in the 90s here this evening when the green flag flies, or in upper 80s and mid 80s by the time it finishes. But it takes heat from the tires going over it to activate that. With these short stints and these short burst runs that we're going to have in the Open as well as the All-Star race, I'm not so sure the PJ1's going to come into play that quickly. It's going to be fun to see early on. Do drivers go up there immediately, or do they get right at the bottom and have to root and gouge their way around? Either way, it promises to be good.
A lot of storylines coming in, absolutely. Final question before we let you get back to work here. Overall this season, what's been your favorite moment to call at MRN this year?
Coming to the green flag, the Daytona 500 was, and I'm not saying this because the gentleman's sitting in here,
Yeah.
inside the belly of our truck right now, but it was one of the
Full of it.
it was one of the most emotional moments I've had. This is Winston Kelley's final full-time season with us at MRN, the executive director of the NASCAR Hall of Fame. He's our senior pit reporter, our lead pit reporter, and we talked about it. Jeff Streigle and myself, we said we've got to do something for Winston. We've got to say something on what could be his last Daytona 500 as a broadcaster with us on the network. And talked to our boss Chris Schwartz, and he said, "Yeah, write something up. Let's go over it. Let's see if it says anything." So I sat in my hotel room the night before the Daytona 500 and hacked out a few things on the computer. I changed this line. I couldn't find the right words, and that was one of the things. So I just printed out whatever I had on the morning of the 500, presented it to our boss Chris Schwartz, and he said, "Don't change a word. Go with it." And to be able to introduce Winston Kelley on the final pit sweep before the green flag. And read that paragraph before, it was tough for me to get through. I think I got Winston on it, and that's not only a highlight of the year, but that's a highlight of my career.
Winston, you got a moment for us to ask you a question real quick? All right, so obviously your final year.
After he does that to you. That's what he got me on.
Yeah, because I ended it with something that wasn't on the script that I wrote
true.
out. He's known as G-Dub, for Winston. So I finished it up with G-Dub, and I think I got him on that one.
All right, so Winston, I want to ask you, obviously your final year at MRN as the pit reporter, what's been your favorite moment calling all these races?
That's like asking a grandfather who's your favorite grandchild when you've got 15 or 20. There's so many different ones. I'll always remember my first broadcast on the air with MRN at Martinsville. I always remember first Daytona 500. But I also remember a lot of the victory lanes that are so special at certain times. And some of them I understand why they're special. Some of them I don't. When Dale Earnhardt Jr. won in Phoenix one year, he was so excited. He was in the middle of a 6-win season. But something about that. When he won in the Nationwide Series at the time, in the Wrangler car honoring his dad. You know, that one was very special. When Terry Labonte won what was then the last Southern 500, where he'd won his first race and his last race, having an old school guy, if you will, win that race. You know, those are all special moments, just, you know, being around those situations. The two that are non-competition that were the most impactful to me, one was before the 1991 Daytona 500, right after Operation Desert Storm started. 5 cars without sponsors were painted in all the military colors, and the driver standing there during God Bless the USA and the national anthem with tears running down their cheeks. That was one. The other one was Talladega this year. Seeing the driver, seeing Richard show up when at 82 years old, he wasn't supposed to be there. You know, and just so those were 2 non-competition ones that were really special, that said a lot about what this sport is, what the heart of the sport is, for 2 very different reasons.
I actually heard that broadcast as well, board hopping, and that gave me goosebumps, and I was tearing up as well. But anyway, thank you, Winston, for your time. And Alex, always great to talk with you as always.
Likewise.
From time to time. We'll talk with you again soon.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Alex Hayden, one of the voices of the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR. Thanks for tuning in, guys.